What's going on, guys?
Hey.
It is your girl, Kat.
And I'm Loni.
Welcome to, finally, another episode of The
Yes.
Breakdown.
Hey.
So, we concluded, was a 5-part series?
I think it was 5 parts.
5-part series
Yes.
today, Naked and Afraid.
Yes.
It was a really great series, and I must say it definitely kept me on my toes because it just really resonated, I think, with where a lot of us are this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. And, it started out talking about these 3 main areas, making sure how you see yourself or how you feel viewed by God, how you see yourself, and then how you feel you're viewed by others. And I think that hits everybody.
So do you have one in particular that stands out, or are you like an all-threer?
I'm probably an all-threer, but what's hitting the hardest right now, I think, is how I see myself, and just kind of worried about, am I living up to what I'm supposed to live up to? You know what I mean? And so that kind of spills over into the God thing. So, I know my purpose. Okay, great. Yay, we got purpose. But then it's like, am I fulfilling my purpose? Am I doing it properly? It's that part. So, what would you say?
I'm a bit of an inceptioner. So it just changes, where it's like, I don't care about what y'all say, but then it's like, I care about what I say. And then it's like, is this what God say? Is this God talking? This is the devil. I'm a bit crazy right now, a big household, so sometimes it's even hard to even know what I feel. So I'm definitely an all-threer, but like you said, it spills over sometimes into, what do you call them? Venn diagrams that you learn? Come on.
Yes.
I was listening, Miss Jenkins. Okay.
Yes.
They overlap. And it depends on the time, the day, and even what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The areas that you're hitting, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. Another thing that I see with that whole spilling over is that as humans, we're really good at covering it up, right? Yeah. And so I might feel comfortable saying, I'm really concerned about how I feel and look in front of God. But really, I'm concerned about how I look in front of people, and I'm not moving out because I don't want people to judge me. You know what I mean? And so it's hard to even get clear about which area you actually fall into without taking the time to do so.
Yes. You have to have some level of consciousness about yourself, and then you have to have some level of freeness. I don't know if that's a word, to even be able to say, I have not moved beyond the shallowness of worried about the crowd. Yeah. Because it really does matter to me.
But I think that has a negative connotation when in actuality that's part of the human experience. We are communal people. You don't do life alone. And a lot of society is built upon
others think about
do you fall in line with what society has built?
You saying that? I was in the back today, and I normally sit in the front. I said, wow, the back got me thinking different, because I was like, what about your credit score? Because, do the Lord care about that? I just throw that out there so anybody else that's crazy like me, some other crazies out here thinking just like you, like, Lord, how much of this is you? How much of it is society standards? Yeah. And what do I need to get a BMW? Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm just playing. But
no,
like you said, we are built, we're community people, herd creatures, so it does matter.
It does. It does. It just doesn't need to rule you.
Come
right?
on.
That, again, to use your new word, freeness. Yeah. No, but to have the freedom to walk away from other people's opinions of you if God asked you to.
Come on.
To not be a slave to other people's opinions that you're losing yourself.
Yes.
I think that's the part that we really have to, really work out to know how to walk that fine line, right? Another thing he talked about today that really stood out, he said you have to settle who you are in God. Good. It has to be settled in you. And he said, or do you have the orphan complex? And I was like, that's so good. That term alone is so good, because being an orphan, you don't have parents. That's the definition of it, right? You are without family, you're without being connected to someone. And even if you are adopted, you can still carry that orphan mentality into that new foster family, that new adopted family. And you miss out on all the beauty because you separate yourself even when the family's not separating you. And I was like, that hit on so many levels. God says, here, come, you're my child. welcome. What do you need? What do you want? And you're sitting there like, I can't ask for that because I'm an orphan. I'm just here.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, you're just being nice to me. I'm not really accepted. And so you segment yourself out.
Yes.
From the blessing.
Yes.
You don't go boldly to the throne of grace that you may obtain mercy. You're beating yourself up in the corner. You know what I mean? Like, so that was so good.
And that is really important to understand, because I think a lot of us who did not grow up with a two-parent household, there's a little bit of almost frustration in that, because you're like, well, how am I supposed to understand what it is to have that type of loving father and family when I have no reference point for it? And that's why it's really important that you read your word and also get into a prayer quiet time so you can understand God for yourself. Reading your word and prayer are as important as each other. The Bible is a tool, but prayer is as well. And being alone with God in those quiet times, he can speak to the matters of your heart as an individual.
Absolutely.
Especially with what's been bothering you or plaguing you or just keeping you stressed out. When you just kind of sit and give your time to God, it's like he can start to hit those things. When you talk about the orphan complex, sometimes they're different. You know, how you make, it's surprising that she did come from a two-parent household, but she could still relate to the same thing I'm feeling. And God can answer both of us differently in those quiet spaces so that he can speak to the matters of the heart. So I just wanted to point out to somebody who may be feeling like, how am I supposed to know, you know, what it feels like to have a dad like that? God has an amazing way of using people.
That's what I was going to say. That's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say, in the quiet time, you build this relationship with God so that you can trust him to fill the void outside of the way you think it should be built or met or healed, whatever way. So even God bringing people into your life to be that pseudo dad so that you can relate and say, okay, I didn't have my dad, but then, Mr. Jenkins, you know what I'm saying? Like, he was like, he was so sweet and just cared for us. And then, you know what I mean? Like, you have that, or you're like Elder Taylor, you know what I'm saying? Like, he loves on us. Like, it's just, you have that reference point now. And God shows you with people on earth that you can trust as long as you let it in. So there's many of us where God has tried to heal that area, but we are so stuck and committed to that identity, that sense of self, that we can't even let the new thing come in because we're so scared of it. You know what I mean?
That's really good. So I would just encourage anybody watching, would love to give homework, kind of identify that in your life. What is something that you hold on to that you think is like a truth? It may not be in the Bible, but it's something that you learned growing up. Maybe it's something that you learned as you try to survive some things through trauma that has helped you survive, but maybe doesn't serve you now, that you're holding on to, because sometimes God will show you what that thing is by a situation happening over and over again in your life, and you think like, I just don't like this type of person because they just seem to A, B, and C, and God's trying to show you something. So I give that to you. I was going to just hit, so we kind of talked about, identifying how you feel about how God sees you, you see yourself, or others. And Pastor hit the solution to that is keeping your eyes on him. And so while he was going over it, I wrote down things that are the consequences of not keeping your eyes on him. That's good. My brain's very inverse. So for me, I wrote down what it looks like when I keep my eyes on me is it looks like control. So control as in like, my house has to look this type of way, because I know from a little girl, my mom told me, as a young lady, you should be clean like this. So I feel like a bad mom or wife when my house isn't clean. Standards for practical things rooted in tradition. So traditionally, as a Black person, we have a lot of unwritten rules that we go by. That sometimes are funny, but sometimes they're very toxic. And undoing those, it can be hard. It can be hard because you don't even recognize, like, that's not a rule. You don't have to. Okay. All right. I won't even get into it because I don't want to. Though
it's just unwritten. It's not even founded in anything.
That's good.
Exactly.
And if you read the Bible, I'm telling y'all, like, they dealt with the same thing. The Pharisees, like Pastor went over with them, like they start off as people that held a standard, but the tradition turned into toxicity in the
became
scriptures.
A prison.
Bad theology. I won't get on it, but y'all don't try to fight for the Lord on Instagram. It's a losing. Listen, don't do it. Okay, but bad theology can just put you in situations and make you feel like you just don't know what you don't know. And it's like, that's not even fundamental. So bad theology. And last I wrote subconscious sin or self-sabotage. And subconscious sin could be that thing that helps you feel like, I need to be equal with this group of people. They think I'm better than them. Let me go ahead and dabble in this so they know I'm still down.
Oh, that's good.
Or I'm still real.
Yeah.
Or I haven't changed that much, when really the Lord's like, no, you
absolutely
have changed.
Called you out.
You're a new creation.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, and it's okay to change.
Yeah, so
absolutely.
those are things that I wrote down that I struggle with. And so I wanted to share those specifically for anybody. Side note, when you're in church, there's no wrong or right way to take notes.
Yeah.
Like whatever the Holy Spirit illuminates, write that down. So for me, I wrote down, what do you do? So that you can look back at it. So those are some things that I do when I keep my eyes on me.
So don't do that.
Don't do that, yes, sorry.
Exactly. No, okay, so the part that really, like he ended with, that was a punch, like he talked about Peter. Peter performing. I've never heard it like this. So he said, when Jesus asked, like, hey, which one of you is going to betray me, type of thing, like, hey, everybody here ain't solid. Peter kind of rise up, like, and won't be me, though. Yeah, totally. You know what I'm saying? Like, exactly, right? And Pastor said, how much of that was for the crowd? How much of that was him performing and jumping up? I'll be the first one to go, because there was people around, and that he never had the time to like really just sit and deal with it. Maybe he wasn't even aware of it.
That's
now
good.
He could have been compensating, and he could have been denying. Those are two things that Pastor talked about self-consciousness does, is that it can cause you to compensate. You're doing more and more and more to try to hide the fact that you don't have what you should, or you deny it. You know what I mean? Like you deny that part of you.
Yes.
But he said the performance for the crowd, and I was like, wow, never heard it like that before. And then it hit like, oh, that's why we're supposed to get away from the crowd. Like we hear about Jesus retreating, constantly going away by himself. And how many of us are living out of this performative theology, performative relationship with God, and we haven't even sat alone to say, this is the part where I'm struggling.
Yes.
This is the part where I don't believe, but I have to declare this to the people because they demand it of me, or I'm known as the person who's always optimistic, And so how can I say, God, where are you? You know what I mean? Are you even gonna come through? Like you don't even have the freedom to do that before the people. So you need that time away, right? Like you need that time to sit with God. And I was like, that's really good, because how many of us feel trapped by what's supposed to set us free?
Come on.
Like the church is not there to hold you to this impossible standard, to make you perform in some kind of way, to get accolades from the people. Like honestly, this is where we're supposed to come and be naked and unashamed.
And be
like
yourself,
just let it all out. Like this is the mess, y'all. Help me clean it up.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
yes.
Like, and find allies to help you really do this. So I was like, that was really good.
That was really good. And Peter he's that character that a lot of us can relate to when we hear. But I also had never heard like that, performing to the crowd. And I thought what stood out to me was in the same space that his flesh rose up and acted up, in that same space the Lord chastised him, or basically disciplined him and loved him. It was in the space of other people. And I think that's very interesting, is when you don't get away for God to commune with you about those secret things of your heart that need to be broken away, cut away, made more like Christ. If you want to stay in front of the crowd, then we're going to do it in front of the crowd. It reminds me of going to the store with the children, and one of the things that I would say to them when they began to act up is like, are we getting stupid?
No, that's it.
Is that what we doing? We acting crazy? And translating that for you today, what I'm saying to them is, this where you want to do this at? We can either be quiet and, okay, I know my mom says I should not yell and touch things and run around. And so I'm going to pretend like I know what she's talking about without her saying it. Or do we both need to get crazy in front of everybody? And it's interesting that the child then can receive the message because they don't want to be embarrassed.
Right.
And so as an adult with my own spiritual walk with God, I have to watch that with myself. If I don't get away and do my reading and my quiet time, and I'm not talking about an hour every day, y'all. Listen, I got a lot of kids. So that's not even realistic. But the time that I can get away, there are moments where God can deposit things on the inside of me that can help me when I get back out in front of the metaphorical crowd. And so I just offer that to somebody.
Absolutely.
You guys, we watch Jesus do it. Get away from the crowd. So
and it doesn't have to have, like you got the Bible, your devotional, the journal, your
oil. She's talking about me. I'm just going through something right now. But
it doesn't have to be like that every
No.
time. Like getting away and just be honest. Like, God, I don't even have it in me to do all this today. I want to give you time.
He loves that.
He
loves that because that is like really like, hey, I don't even know where we're going with this. That's faith and trust, you guys. And in fact, and that's why it's so interesting, for me when I read the word and I look at who Jesus was hanging out with. It's like he was really trying to show us, like, I like this group of people, the ones that know they didn't earn it themselves, the dirtiest, the Samaritans, because it's gonna help somebody, years from now understand, like, and you too, that don't have it, that don't know, that's not traditionally rooted in church. Like you're however you're gonna do it is gonna be right for you and I love that. So I really hope that as this series played out, please go back and watch it.
Please. Take notes.
Take notes again.
Yes.
It's like a movie. You'll go back and find something completely different.
Absolutely.
The next time you watch this series. Naked and Afraid. But now we're naked and unashamed.
Okay. And
unbothered. Okay.
Yes.
Now listen, don't be out here, y'all, without your undergarments. That ain't what Pastor was saying. All
Not
right.
at all.
Put on your house coat.
Right.
And praise the Lord like that. When you check the mail. We thank y'all for joining us. We want to thank you guys for coming back and being patient with us. We love filming these for you guys. If you have any questions, concerns, you can hit us up through the DM on Instagram, info@antioch.com. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Join us next Sunday.
Or leave a comment below.
Oh, that works too. Yes. And we also are still streaming on YouTube. So any way you can get the word, get the word. You guys enjoy your week. Be safe. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Peace.